Greetings and welcome to S.H.E Summit 2025, Day 2. We're very happy to have you here. Thank you for those who are tuning in at our GatherVerse.live, for those who are watching us on our YouTube channel, and every live channel that we are hosting this event. Today, we will begin with a powerful roundtable on through her eyes, determination, skill, and persistence. With me, I have an amazing roundtable with quite impeccable women who I would like for them to introduce themselves and tell us who they are and what they do so that we may get started with our first roundtable. I will start with you, Dr. Renee, passing it through all the way to Cheryl, if I got that name right. Dr. Renee, go. Please go.
Awesome. Nice to be here. Thank you all for having me as well at GatherVerse. So I am Dr. Renee Carr. I work at IBM. I'm a strategy consultant. So I have a doctorate in education. I often joke it's the least common doctorate out there. It's a professional doctorate. Some folks haven't heard of it. So some people say I have a PhD. It's an EDD. I've written a couple of books and I was a teacher. So some of the books I've written were around some of the teaching I did and on social emotional learning, my dissertation topic. And so I'll be talking to you today about all the different career changing I've done and the perseverance that women do experience and hope to continue to experience. So I'll pass it over to Cheryl, I think is the next person that Lynn mentioned.
Yeah. Charlene, no, I'll pass it over to Charlene. Then we go all the way to Alexia. So, Charlene, please go.
Thank you so much for having me. So great to be here. My name is Charlene Nichols. I'm the founder and CEO of the Omniverse City. We've developed this technology to provide a more accessible way for creators and businesses to connect with just the general public. We used to call them consumers, customers. We have all these different ways of defining the people that we want to connect with from a business sense. But I really love the way this new era of spatial awareness and metaverse and AI, it's really turning us more into like a community. So it's giving us new ways to kind of define our connections, and we're just here to facilitate that. So thank you for having me here.
Welcome. I'm passing it to you, Bay, briefly.
Hi, everyone. Hi, thank you, Lynn. Hi, everyone. I'm Bei Wang. You can just call me Bei from the Netherlands. Good to see you again, Charlene. I think we shared the stage in the past. Last time I joined the summit on behalf of my startup company. So I was the founder of Web3 company. But this time I want to focus on my other identity. I'm a university lecturer, and I'm also on my third year of getting a PhD in digital transformation, focusing on China and the global South. I really enjoyed teaching courses about humanities and technologies. So I'm here really looking forward to share some of my experience and thoughts with you guys.
Thank you. You're very welcome, Bay. Susan, you're next, please. Your mic, kindly. Please unmute.
Hello, nice to meet you, Lynn, and all of these wildly impressive women. And thank you, Christopher, for all you do to gather us together. My name is Suzanne Goldstein. I am the founder and CEO of my company, Dare Human. We are all about waking humanity the F up. And we do that through energetics and understanding the mastery of masculine and feminine energetics. My background is wildly diverse. I was trained both as a mechanical engineer and in theater and film. I spent a lot of time, I produced my first movie for Hollywood when I was 27 years old. And then I spent about 25 years in technology building Web 1.0 startup companies, which was amazing. And what I realized being a woman in technology and being called every bad name on the planet, I decided to go out and change the world for women and to really help us empower ourselves so that we have the tools installed in our preconscious mind, kind of like plugging into the matrix. We have tools to help us manage the emotional and energetic trials and tribulations of a changing world while we're creating harmony in our households so that we're living life in a great way. Thanks for.
Wow, that is very impressive. We greet you in global community. Christy, please go.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here. My name is Christy Huss, and I am from the United States, and I am a journey facilitator. I help people explore the world through travel as a travel agent. I've been doing that for over 25 years, and I help them explore themselves, their inner world, and get to where they want to be in life as a high performance coach, speaker, and author. And I am very passionate about helping women all throughout the world. I have 6 daughters, including quadruplets. So girls are my specialty, and I think leading by example, we can make a difference and lead by example.
Wow, that is very impressive. We look forward to having your daughters in future. Cheryl, kindly go.
Hi, everybody. My name is Cheryl Streisalka. I come here representing my HR consulting company, Ugly Duckling HR Consulting. But like all of the women on this call, I wear many hats, operate as, the head of HR, aspiring author, keynote speaker, mom, neurodivergent person, and I come here today to help support some of the women watching in learning how you can find who your true identity is, figure out who you are and what fulfills you the most. And that's actually the topic of the book that I'm writing. So I'm just excited to be part of this, and again, honored to be part of this group of women. So thank you so much.
We're honored to have you too, and congratulations on your book. Alexia.
Hi, everyone. Alexia Dumboya. I go by the purpose-driven doula. So I am a doula and the founder of CocoLife.Black, Philadelphia-based nonprofit. We support moms in 3 key stages: pregnancy, postpartum, and compassion for the loss of a child or significant loved one. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing. Super excited to be here. And as it relates to my background experience, I spent a lot of time in the insurances and executive capacity. And so just with my own lived experience and impacted by those others in this space is what drew me to this work of maternal health, especially also listening to some of the disparities in care across our country. I definitely wanted to jump in. So I always say I decided to become what I didn't have at that time. So again, super excited to be here amongst all these wonderful people. I have 2 junior interns. One is 13 and one is 5, and an amazing husband that I'm so excited to do life with.
Thank you. Very impressive. Our dear audience, that is our panelist for today for this particular roundtable. I suspect we have a lot to cover. There's so much to learn. And I encourage you, our dear audience, please engage with our chats, engage with our speakers, follow them, connect with them. And shall we begin, ladies? Okay, we shall begin with you, Dr. Rini. What is the connection between grit and success in today's competitive world? And anyone can chime in on this too.
You say, what is the connection between grit and success in today's competitive world? That was the question?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Just want to make sure I heard right. Okay, so the connection really is, I think about this own experience, and I think hearing some of our panelists here today, the experience of getting a doctorate, I thought every day I was going to quit. And I really had to have the grit to get through that. And only 30% of people even complete their doctorate. And so I start with an example because it is such a difficult, I would say, accomplishment to get through. And as a woman with a background, my grandmother only had a 3rd grade education, came from Greece as a World War II refugee. My mother's father died at 16. She never went to college. And so I felt like I was collecting degrees for the women in my life that didn't have those opportunities. And so I thought to myself, my grandmother never would have had this opportunity. My mother never had this opportunity. I cannot quit now. I'm doing this for them. I'm doing this for the other women. And when I graduated, I looked at all of the women that were there. And honestly, I was just so proud to see that there were more women than men. And it was like, that was an exciting opportunity. And it's an educational leadership space. So I say this because you do need to have grit to make it through those challenges, those obstacles. If you think about those doubts and those setbacks, you're just going to stay hyper focused on that. if you think about your community and the reason why you set that goal in the first place, don't give up on that dream. Don't give up on that goal. Have the grit and the tenacity to make it through, even if it feels insurmountable. And like me, you're in your labor of your first child and having to study for those comprehensive exams. You can do this. You've got this.
Wow, as I listen to you, I'm also relating to what you said. When you look at your generations and you find no one has the academic accolade that you have achieved, you feel so proud, right? And I see you, Alexia, sorry, agreeing with that. Do you want to chime in on it?
I do. I love that. And I love being influenced by those who came before you and those who encourage your work. I always say, even as it relates to service, I'm a servant leader, but that's because that's what I watched growing up. Similarly, right? My mother, grandfather, my mother, grandmother, and my father were very influential in my lives. They always made sure that they gave abundantly. They were extravagant givers, if you will, to quote even one of my favorite authors. And I think one of the things that always stood out for me is that I wanted to make an impact in the world. I wanted my legacy to be of someone who did have grit. I wanted my kids to be able to see that, and not in the superwoman syndrome type of way. I think that's what I've learned in my latter years. I'll say I'm 42, so I can say that now, I feel like, but not in that type of way of burning myself out, but showing this balance between you work hard with intention, I'm purpose driven, and that intersectionality between what I'm really good at and what I'm called to do. I'm going to put forth the effort in order to accomplish those things, but I'm going to do so by making sure that those alongside me, we're all going in the same direction as well. So what I like, Dr. Carr said, I don't just do this for me. I do this because when it happens, someone else behind or beside me is also going to be elevated.
Wow, what a very good mindset and a perspective to look at it. I want to bring you on this, Charlene. How do you remain persistent and maintaining a sense of purpose when facing setbacks? And anyone who has experienced this kind of setbacks, you can chime in too. Let us know how you remain persistent, Charlene.
Well, thank you so much. And I have to say, I host weekly events in Omniverse City where I let the community members come in and kind of share their experiences. And I'm finding a very big common denominator. A lot of them suffered from massive grief. I don't know if there's been a very big shortening of the life cycle, but I'm meeting people that have lost 2, 3, 5, 10 very close family members in the last couple of years. But one of the individuals, Paul Clark Caton, I'll give him a shout out. He said something yesterday that was very profound after losing his wife, which I'm sure was incredibly painful, his brother, so many family members during the pandemic and afterwards. And he said, our pain is our purpose. And when I think about it, when I started my company, I resigned from a career where I was technically very successful, except I wasn't fulfilled. And I felt like it wasn't my purpose to be in this very unrewarding, ungrateful, limited setting. And nobody was there to tell me that I was right. As a matter of fact, everyone told me I was wrong. It is wrong to think that the level of success that you have isn't enough. Like, how could you be ungrateful and not be satisfied with this? Like, you're the most successful woman in your company, and it's a big company, and this is success, even though it's not as aligned with some of the success of others. And I won't even associate it with gender. It's just there were others that were getting much greater pathways to success, but yet I was being made to believe that that wasn't my purpose. So I just defined my own purpose, and I let that be my barrier. And I guess that's my winded answer to that question, is really just defining your own purpose and raising that bar every day, never being, content. Somebody used, I think it was you, Alexia, the word legacy. That's the time. I'll leave on this, the dash in between. I attended a memorial of a very dear friend recently, and during the memorial, they talked about on your tombstone or wherever they identify your life, they will identify the date that you were born and the date that you passed, and that dash in between is really what you did with it. And I think that's kind of what we're all here for.
Yeah, I agree. And I just want to follow up on something on that. You mentioned whereby you were in a very high position, but you didn't feel satisfied, or it looked like you were ungrateful. There's so many women right now, they have these high accolades, and they may be feeling they're not satisfied, they're not fulfilled. How do they get the courage to walk out from what the society thinks they're successful, to being brave enough to go and pursue their own purpose? And anyone can chime in on that too. Okay, Susan.
So we all carry one of these, right? Whatever flavor. And I literally have gone through my life upgrading my life like software. So we're in a techie kind of community right here. And if you think about it, we are a supercomputer up here. And I believe we have a direct connect to source, whatever source means for you. It could be the thing that makes your fingernails grow at night. It could be what you call God from your church, and anywhere in between. And the thing is, when we are living on purpose, we create this thing where our passions and our interests and our skills come together, and we create extra heartbeats. And if you can constantly be looking at your life and feeling into where you think you're supposed to be, my concept of this is that as you age, as you mature in your career, your passions, once you know them, tend to hone in, but your interests expand. And so as we go through life, you might be pointing the flashlight of your passion at, for me, I started off in professional theater. And then I went into professional film. And then I went into technology. And then I went to social entrepreneurship. And then I taught at Harvard for a while. I've done a whole bunch of different things. And it seems like they don't fit together. But actually, they are me pursuing my passion, which is to make the world a better place. And I'm pointing my flashlight at different things. So we often think that changing directions is actually like, how can you leave that behind? And my philosophy is, I'm not leaving it behind. I'm upgrading my software. I'm plugging back into the matrix. I'm bringing in new code. And I'm currently at Suzanne 34.1. I started doing this when I was 27 years old. And so I just want to demystify this idea that we're supposed to be on a path. Like, Charlene, I love that you changed because it wasn't fulfilling for you. So you point your flashlight, your heart light, at something that feels better. And now it doesn't feel like work anymore. Now it feels like life.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I felt like that was so powerful. I still obey. Chime in. If you
I would like to share something. I think I had a very unique experience of my whole life. I was born in China, and I grew up in an education system, and also a time that it seems that everything we do is for to contribute to the success of our country. So it's very collective thinking. And I moved to the Netherlands, to Europe in 2000. So it's like now I'm living longer years in the West than in China. And then in the last decades, we witnessed the changing of the world and the shift of a lot of things: technology, geopolitics, cultural exchange. But in between, I actually think that there's one thing that is always consistent is the human aspects. Because you have the technology changes, you have all these different system thinkings. So after decades of living in the Western world, and I actually schooled in English literature, and I have worked in international organization. I was a journalist in international media, and then I become an entrepreneur, building new digital platforms. But now I'm get back to school to teach, but also being taught by my students. I'm kind of learning again. And I'm also a mother of two boys. My younger son, he has a very, very rare syndrome, very rare disease. So he has very delayed learning and a delayed development. But actually, I learned a lot from him. So I think for me, it's almost like this one red thread. It's about the human aspects, about how diverse, how different each human is. So for me, success is something defined almost like by a certain kind of predictable system. But I think in the end, it's really about something within. And I also want to bring in now more and more different thinkings. So after learning Western thinkings for decades, now I'm contributing more in the Eastern thinking and trying to connect them together. That's also the reason why I started my PhD journey 3 years ago. And I think that it's going to be very, very interesting to see, especially in the current time of technological advancement, that how can we really still focusing on the human agency, because there's a lot of debates about AI and AI, is it good or bad? But I think for me, we just, if we kind of like take a step aside and look at technology as just a means to an end, not the end itself, it's just a tool. But I think focusing on humans, focusing on a lot of different individuals, like today we are sitting together, and then I think every individual is an indigenous culture, indigenous background. So I think this is, for me, the most beautiful but most important thing in our world, because we are all physical. So it's not like I don't fancy living in a framed or created or defined world, but I think it's the human emotion that connect us together. And
I definitely.
so this is something that I really feel like so nice to. Maybe at the same time, I always feel like among all the discussion about female and male leadership, I think females, we talk more and more about empathy, but I feel like maybe because of the femininity traits that can bring more of those human elements. So
I want you to hold that thought, because I'm coming to that. That's a very, very crucial topic that we should address. And I do totally agree, humanity first. And that is one of the standards of GatherVerse, us bringing all people from around the world to express. It's our way of saying humanity comes first. Before innovation, before anything, humanity comes first. And I want to bring you on this, Christy. How do you balance perseverance with knowing when to consider or change direction? When is the right time to change that direction?
Well, I love this topic, and it's because I've had so many years of helping people travel the world. I've seen a lot and helped them plan a trip. There's a lot to be learned, I think, in how we travel and how we plan a trip. The perseverance we put forth when we set to go somewhere, we'll do about anything to get there. We'll endure some delays and bumps in the roads, and we will get to where we want to go, because it's that important. So when we apply that in our own lives with maybe a goal or a dream or something you want to do, if you put a lot of thought and clarity into what it is you want to become, what it is you want to do, as that like being the destination you want to reach, you'll set out to do it. I feel like having that clarity of your values, your how you want to feel, what are your strengths and your gifts, and combine them all. I use that as like a navigational tool in my compass. And if I'm following that, when those bumps in the road come, or the unexpected, when you have quadruplets and all of a sudden my plan changed, you need to shift. But it can be a great thing. It's just, if I'm living in that compass and those navigational tools, whatever direction I'm headed the right way. So that's my pointing direction.
Thank you for highlighting that. And I love the compass behind you. It tells a lot, and it adds to what you have just said. Susan mentioned something to do with the continuous path of learning, and also this upgrading yourself. And I want to bring you, Cheryl, on this. What does continuous learning play in achieving success?
So I think that there's different types of learning, and while one path may take us down a more traditional academic path, which is admirable and exciting, there are so many other paths that we need to consider, especially when we're changing course. It's so important that we're reading, that we're establishing a reliable and supportive network of other people who are experts and have sort of been down that road before. And I think also Alexia had mentioned earlier that we're elevating others in our circle as we're growing. So we're learning from the folks that we're bringing along on this journey. I think Bay said that as well, that she's learning from her students as she goes. And so it's, I think, acknowledging that it does not have to be formal or conventional. It can be, you can learn something new and take a new piece of enlightening information from literally any aspect of your world if you're open to it.
I totally agree. It doesn't have to be formal. You know, when people talk about learning, they always have this mindset of a formal setup of learning. And even this setup right here, the expressions that you're all contributing, I'm learning. I feel like I should have my notebook on. Maybe, Alexia, do you want to chime in on this? I see you agreeing to that.
Yes, I mean, I think that one of the things I was most excited about, one, I love the name, and I think when we have, all of us had to go through this path and journey of deciding names, and we don't oftentimes see as much emphasis put in it. But even something as what could be seemingly simple as what you name your company, what you name your organization, and as we've done it, those of us who have gone through that journey of even motherhood or birthing, the value and connection to that. And so I think that one of the things that continues to resonate for me is, as I looked for my screen, one, yes, we are connected through so many different ways, through our own experiences. And so what that does is takes the level, and I think Susan said it too, but humanity, right, becomes like our common thread. And it's very difficult to be mad. Well, let me not say that, because I love my husband and sometimes I get mad, but to stay mad, to act in an egregious manner towards someone that you've built a connection with. And so if we simply take the time to do something like this, right? None of us knew each other before we journeyed into this space, but nothing also happens by chance. And so I thank God for the blessing of just being able to be in a shared space where we not only have the same objective as wanting to be able to speak in a public domain. But I think all of us, from what I heard, came here with a desire to connect, to be able to inform as to why we are here in this space. And hopefully, whether we knew it or not, whether it was intentional or not, show other people how just coming together can make a difference. And so that's empowering. As a woman, as a Black woman, as a woman who also has to navigate many spaces where I don't not only always see other women or people who identify or come from other marginalized spaces exist, but it's empowering and encouraging because I know that there are other people out there that share that common goal. So that's where we can connect. We don't have to connect in areas that are inflated when they don't really mean as much. But what we can connect is in something as important as we value each other enough to come here and be present, and we want other people to see the same level of importance.
Wow, that is very profound. And I totally agree with that. Connecting from a space of value. And maybe just to read some comments on our YouTube platform, because this is such a powerful talk. We have Coco Live saying greetings here. We have Sarah saying, very glad to be here. Good to see you. And someone says, Swati says, yes, I'm learning a lot from trading patience and discipline. Our dear audience, keep engaging with this panel. I feel like gems are being dropped. And if you want to drop something too, please drop it on the comment section. I'm going to go to you, Suzanne. How do you turn doubt and setbacks into opportunity? And I also want you, Dr. Renee, to chime in on this as well.
Thank you for asking. So I bring science and woo together. I teach neuroscience, but I also teach spirituality. And how to get people to move from this 3D plane that we live in into the path of consciousness through the 4D and into 5D consciousness, and what that actually means. So if you live in that space, and if you have no idea what I'm talking about, that's okay. This is a whole world that could open up to you. When you live in that space, what you understand is everything is for you. There is no such thing as a setback. Everything that is delivered to you is meant for you to learn from it and to become. So 20 years ago, I was told I was a cough away from being a quadriplegic. And at the time, they basically said, we can go in through the front or in through the back. And I was like, wait, no PT? Like, my whole neck was completely, messed up. And that moment, my life changed on a dime. And I never thought during the process that it was going to be for me, but it turns out it was the greatest gift I've ever received in my life. So I want to suggest to everybody, I teach through movies. It's a big part of my life. There's a movie called The Adjustment Bureau that I want everybody to watch, because what happens is that we go through life and then something comes in your way, whether it's the bus didn't come on time or, for some reason your car wouldn't start. There's a reason that happened. It set you in a different direction. And so these adjustments, it's like the universe is coming up and it's just, saying, hey, go over here, look over here. And sometimes we look over there and we're like, damn it, I wanted to look over here. And now why am I having to change? In my world, that means you're actually creating new timelines. So if we talk about the multiverse, every time you change direction, every time you do something that you didn't know you were going to do or try something new, you actually are creating the opportunity for a brand new timeline in the multiverse. And when we do that, we start to be able to say to ourselves, who do I desire to be? It's always about who. It's not what, it's not how, it's who you want to be. And once you determine who you want to be, even for this next quarter or year, you can reverse engineer out of that by saying, if I want to be like her, meaning the future version of me, how can I cue myself through this year to become closer and closer to that level? Now, I'm not talking about a person who goes to the gym 3 times a week. I'm talking about the integration of what I call themes. Like, here's my theme for this year. I have one every year. This one is the stars are not as far as you think they are. Last year was what would Taylor do? Because I wanted to really up my game, even in the face of adversity. And I was like, what would Taylor do? She'd write a song about it. I'm talking about Taylor Swift, for those of you who don't know, but like, she'd write a song about it. She'd go and prove to everybody she could do the biggest tour in the world because people told her she couldn't. So like, when you choose who you want to be next, you get to become her, and everything that feels like a setback is actually an opportunity.
Wow, that is so impactful. When I think about that and shifting our mindsets, like there's no setback, it's just a learning experience, and everything is working for you. Whether good or bad, everything is working for you. Dr. Renee, do you have something to say on this topic before we move to the next one?
Yeah, I would like to echo what Suzanne already said. I was going to say the same thing, that you can't view the setbacks and these doubts as negativities, that you can turn them into positives. So seeing them as opportunities, especially when you are multiple setbacks in a row, it can be difficult to see them as opportunities. I'll use an example of trying to career change, kind of go back to a previous question. When you are career changing, you may have to go through multiple interviews. I had to go through 12 interviews after being a teacher. People kept seeing me as a teacher. They wouldn't see me as anything else. It didn't matter that I worked in associations, NGOs, government contracting. I can brag about it all, but they didn't see any of it. All they saw was teacher. And it's terrible that we have these negative views as teachers as a society in the United States, because teachers are amazing individuals. We think on a dime. We can do conflict resolution, deal with multiple personalities at the same time, and read the room like no other. I have so many skills I learned as a teacher I never got from being an office worker. And so that was a setback. But honestly, after doing 12 interviews, all 11 were in education, which is hilarious that people in education, nonprofits, did not want to hire a teacher. But I ended up in the tech space. So Octo, which is now IBM, I got bought out, picked me up, and they wanted a teacher. And they saw me as an opportunity instead of having doubt about me and my skills and my abilities, they were like, no, we want a trainer. So I train leaders at the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. And I use my books, Social Emotional Learning, my dissertation, Emotional Intelligence. So everything I hear Bay saying around empathy, the woo-woo topics I hear Suzanne talking about. I'm from the West Coast, Bay Area, and Seattle area. So when I hear the woo-woo, I'm like naturally born in the right places. And so I resonate with a lot of what we're saying here. And I just want to say too, I had initial doubt. I'm a trainer. I'm very comfortable facilitating. With these leaders at CMS, which can be off-putting for some folks. People ask me, "Are you nervous?" I'm like, "No, I do. I taught in Prince George's County Public Schools, Maryland. I am not nervous. I can handle this." And so I had this doubt that I couldn't be a coach, and that was really interesting for me because I ended up coaching a couple of folks. And I really didn't think I could do it, and actually became a really great opportunity for me to help other folks professionally develop and do something that I didn't think that I could do. So I guess long-winded answer to say, like, you can have initial doubt, turn it into that positive, and continue to make the lemonade out of the lemons.
I agree. And someone says on YouTube, Swati says, yes, an educator at heart. I think that defines you too. You're such a very good educator from what we've had from you. And also all the teachers. A shout out to all educators out there. We value you. Where I come from, if you're a teacher, you're the guru of the community. You know everything. Everyone assumes that you know everything and you're highly respected. So shout out to all teachers. I'm going to pass to you, Charlene. What role does mentorship play in helping women overcome challenges and remain persistent? And anyone can chime in too.
Well, thank you, Lynn. And I have to say, listening to all of you, I feel like, wow, these are things I say, like these realizations, a lot of these like things that you guys are sharing that I'm sure you've discovered through, however long you've been on this earth. It's not like you just have this knowledge and this experience now. You've gone through these phases where you take away like this piece of insight. Mine is redefining reality. I redefine reality all the time, not on purpose. It's just because I'm seeing, I really do try to, because of what I do as a virtual world developer, having no technology skills at all, I explain to my team how to do it and they build it. And that level of communication as a team has taught me so much about how to really communicate. I think AI has done that for us too, right? You speak to ChatGPT or whatever your AI large language model of choice is, and it spits out this result that is so insightful. And you're like, that was what I was saying, but you made it even clearer, And it's like this new era of communication is so profound. Every one of us, human, somebody else said we're human beings, right? I think it was you, Bay, that you said let's focus on humanity and not just AI. The one thing that makes us distinctively different from AI is our perception is changing in real time based on what we're receiving. And we have the ability to have an impact on the things around us by the choices and the actions that we take. And by us being very accountable to what those actions are and really present to how that's impacting the world around us, we can be a mentor without even speaking, just by the way that we're interacting with everything around us, whether it be in a virtual world or a physical world or in a place like this. And that's what's going to be our legacy. That's what we're going to leave behind. We have a gift right now in this generation. 2, 3, 4 decades ago, if somebody left the earth, there was nothing that left behind other than like photo albums or like stories, like remember what Georgie did, like those porch stories. But now we have my children and my family is going to have hours and hours and hours of watching me run my mouth on various platforms. And I'm so grateful that we're in this era of technology where we really get to define the footprint that we leave behind. And I think coming back to the question, Lynn, I think that's how we can really embrace our roles as mentors by just taking accountability for the moments we have like these to share a perspective with the world.
Wow, that is lovely. And okay, Suzanne, please join in.
So to me, mentorship is the most important thing that exists on the planet. And it doesn't matter if it's formal or informal. I happen to be a mentor for a living. It's what I do. But I was mentored. My mentor is turning 99 on Friday, and I've been with him for 35 years. And as our lives have grown, our roles have switched. And so for the longest time, I was learning from him, and now he's learning from me. And, you know, I think the thing about mentorship and why it matters is because it is, whether you pay for it or you get it through an informal connection or a formalized connection at work, where you are assigned a mentor or assigned someone who's helping you rise. I know in the Army here in the US, they call it your rabbi. It's like the person who's going to help guide your career. That whole concept of having someone who is neutral, who can listen to be changed, who can actually see your own instituted enslavement and help you free yourself from your own mind, your own family's constraints, all that stuff. That is so important, to have that vision outside of yourself to help you actually start to navigate in a way that you want to go. So I'm a big fan of mentorship. I think it's really important.
Yeah, now that you have said that, I want to take this opportunity too to shout out to my mentor, Christopher Lafayette, the founder of GatherVerse. He's given us this opportunity to even gather with us here. Shout out to you. Thank you so much. And every moment is precious, as Shelly, you have stated. Christy, I want you to help us understand, how can embracing vulnerability be a source of strength in leadership? And I also want you, Bay, to chime in on this.
Yeah, so I think vulnerability is very much a strength and an act of bravery and courage. I feel like we're getting very used to seeing people airbrushed images. They're putting out certain views, and for a while it seemed to be the thing everyone was doing, and it was just like putting on this persona of you having it all together, and that people would like you and trust you more, which I think there's a major shift now. People want more authenticity, and which includes vulnerability, to really be who you are. And that shows that you're willing to grow and learn. If you do make a mistake, that you accept your responsibility, that you're not just pointing fingers, or as a leader, just, you know, passing it off on someone else and pointing out what they're doing wrong in order to elevate yourself. And I think, unfortunately, we see a lot of that going on, instead of just being real, honest, and vulnerable, and surrounding yourself with people that are strong leaders themselves, and that you can show by being yourself and using your best, bringing out their best, so that you can elevate one another.
Definitely strength in vulnerability. Before you, Bay, I wanna jump. I wanna engage Alexia on this, because I see she's rushing somewhere. Alexia, please chime in on this kindly.
Sorry, junior intern emergency. That happens from time to time. But no, thank you very much. I will be brief with that, because vulnerability and embracing it is, again, how I entered into this space. So navigating 13 years ago, postpartum depression, severe postpartum depression and anxiety, but not having the language at that time. I had no idea what was happening to me, couldn't understand why I could not connect with my child during what should have been one of the most amazing times, and hearing everyone say motherhood is so natural. And that was debilitating to someone who is used to commanding the moments that are in front of me, and being very growth-centered. And so from that, though, it was a moment where I had to embrace it. I had to be vulnerable with people to share what happened. And similar to what was shared earlier, I absolutely pivoted out of a very high profile, high performance driven environment into one that is still very driven. And the performance, though, that I'm focused on is helping other moms, other birthing people realize their strength through their vulnerability. And exactly what was said about there is purpose in our pain. And there's more gains that we have than the losses that we've experienced. And that is true leadership. Not just how can you lead from the front? What does your bank account look like? What are these different assets that we put so much focus on as it relates to wealth, but truly mentally? And then how are you leading in your lane? That's the language I like to use versus people saying stand in your lane, but understanding life has quarters. And so what I did in my 20s is absolutely not where I saw myself in my 40s, but I'm so grateful for people who led and gave an example, and it shows me how to lead in my lane. So I think that's how it can be a source of strength, because it helps you to identify your own strengths. It helps you to be empowered, and then it puts you in a space where you are a lifelong learner, looking at amazing people that sit in front of me here today and saying, wow, these are different ways that I can inspire, and this is what I can show my daughter too. There are some people that are within your reach. Not everything is a textbook and, decades away. There are some amazing people right now who are sitting on this screen who are doing some phenomenal things. And I want you to know that, so that you know what you can be. But before you get there, you got to be vulnerable with the things that you may have gone through that could impact that.
Wow, impactful. And I want to just reflect or echo on what Charlene had said, your pain is your purpose. And Alexia, we're very happy to have you here. Maybe if you have the emergency, we were thankful for the little time we had with you. Bae, you want to chime in on this?
Yeah, I want to add some nuances about the discussion of this, because I think, again, this is also bring back some of my like Eastern thinking and Eastern philosophy, because in the Eastern philosophy, we often talk about yin and yang doesn't mean which one is inferior or weaker or softer than the other. It's more about the balance of different aspects. Because often when I started to join the tech world and tech founders world, it's very masculine. It's always a lot of male and young male, especially I think this kind of alpha male type of leadership traits are emphasized there. And then they talk about female, vulnerability. But based on my experience and my observation, and I noticed that behind those very put up, this like alpha male type of attitude, there is a very, very kind of strong, like a hidden fear underneath it. So I think that is actually the Achilles heel, because I experienced the scenario that when there is a crisis, some of my male colleagues, they are the ones they collapse the first. And so I guess that maybe by starting to be more nuanced about the vulnerability is we bringing all these different spectrum into the leadership. And what I think is all about how to make it more resilient. Because if we kind of visualize it, there is a very hard part, there's a very soft part, but if you bring them together, and then it becomes more kind of flexible and resilient. And I think that is the most strengths. I'm also a Tai Chi and Kung Fu practitioner, and we always joke about there's a lot of philosophical discussion about Bruce Lee, and he always talk about be water. So sometimes like water, it's like in a flow, and then in a way, also the Kung Fu skill he practiced is this Wing Chun. Wing Chun is a type of fighting skill, is actually more. It's invented by a female fighter, so it has this certain kind of use of strength in it. So that's why I want to emphasize that maybe we shouldn't really give the negative or positive tone of certain traits or definition, but it's just really bring a different level of spectrum of force into the action. Because I think in that sense, it's not polarized, it's not bipolar, but it's more like balanced. And I think the world currently really need that, because there's just so much very like polarized discussion of masculinity versus femininity, all this. And I think that actually makes more divide. So if we can kind of bring all this together and then create the balance.
Loving this conversation. I didn't know Kung Fu was introduced to by a woman. I learned something
There's
there.
several fight skills, and Wing Chun, the one that Bruce Lee, he's very strong in. It's actually invented by a female. Yeah.
Wow, I learned that today.
I'd like to address a comment from the audience. Swati, do you mind? I'll just take a minute because it really hits home for me. Swati is saying that they've worked in the tech startup industry for 15 years and they haven't seen any mentor culture. I'm in the optical industry, and when I resigned from my position, mostly where we connected was in social media, and there was definitely no hospitable culture for startups or, mentors or anything like that. And I had to create my own culture. I had to just get people together that wanted to learn from each other. So there wasn't like a definitive mentor in the group, even though I was kind of a leader bringing people in. I was very careful not to position myself as the ultimate leader and let everyone know that I'm just creating a new space where we can all kind of appreciate what everyone brings to the table. And that has exploded over the last 4.5, 5 years. And it's crazy when you see people join that are new. They're afraid to share because they feel well, there's this hierarchy, and those walls are being completely removed. There's no hierarchy anymore in mentorship and leadership. If you don't want there to be one, you can truly just today, even if you've never been a mentor before or a leader before, find an area where you're, and this is to you directly, Swati, find an area where you feel that you've got some experience and some knowledge, and just bring people in and, create a knowledge sharing group, because you'll be just blown away at how that empowerment can really lift you up and lift the others up around you.
Thank you, Charlene, for addressing that. Swati, I hope you've learned that. Perhaps you can also connect with Charlene. Her details are there. And Cheryl, I want to come to you. I want you to help us demystify this. What skills are the most critical in guiding leadership in an ever-changing world? Briefly.
So I think we talked about a few of them already today. Vulnerability is a big one. Being able to be human. I think showing that vulnerable side is critical for your colleagues to be able to experience. I think being the most authentic version of yourself is very valuable. There's also a lot of value in curiosity as a leader, and not thinking you know everything, no matter how long you've been in an industry or in a role. And then I think adaptability is probably up there as one of the most important, because as the world changes and technology evolves, and as humans evolve and us across the world in the workforce learn what's important to us, leaders need to be ready to flex and pivot as those needs evolve.
Thank you. And about knowing it all attitude, perhaps maybe you can dive in a little bit deeper. How does a leader who has had experience over something for such a long time get rid of, just shift from that knowing it all mindset and being flexible into learning something new? How do you tackle that, Cheryl?
Oh, I think the sources of this come from different places for everybody. I think we all find a reason to change our mindset, but it has to come from the person. You can have everyone in your life telling you need to make that shift, and until you're ready, I think it's really tough to do that. So I think just being honest with yourself, not punishing yourself for your past, but sort of assessing where you've come from. And then I think even Suzanne talked about looking at the next version of yourself. Who is the future me? Who do I want to be? And what do I need to do to get there? I think that combining those two things, you can get there quite naturally.
Well, thank you for sharing that. This is our last question, and I want anyone to chime in briefly before our time goes off. What mindset shifts do you believe are essential for women to sustain long-term success and impact? Who wants to go that? Cheryl, Christy? Okay, whoever. Okay.
If you don't mind, I can just chime in quickly in the beginning.
Christy and then Suzanne, briefly, yeah. Sure, go.
So there are 3 mantras that I live by. I learned this in somatic therapy. If you tell yourself every day these 3 things, I am safe, I am enough, and I am ready, this will be the impetus for all of the change you're looking for in your life. And I'll hand it off to Christy next.
Yeah, so I thank you. That was great. And I feel like mindset shifts. I think at looking, so much of how we see the world is opening up our mind to different perspectives when we travel. And I feel like you can look at something always a different way. So that's exactly what you're doing when you shift your thinking. I call them flips or reframes. So take something and changing it into another. And when you talk about that long-term success and impact, a big shift and change I made was from the daily grind to the daily find, to find purpose and fulfillment and not just doing more and adding more, making sure it's purposeful and aligned with where I want to go so that you can sustain long-term success and enjoy it.
Amazing.
I just want to chime in super quick because I think when
okay.
Oh, yes.
Okay, Susan had gone first, and then we come to Charlene. Kindly
go for it.
Thank you. First of all, I love these women, so let's all stay in touch. This is really cool. I really believe that our brains are the key to everything, because if we understand that our brain is just part of our human and it's not part of who we be, that we get to understand it. So one of the things I say to myself all the time is my human is struggling, but I am not. Meaning I am my higher self, my super soul, whatever one likes to call it. And I know all the answers, but my human often gets confused. And the biggest thing that humans do is we have habits. Our brains are processing hundreds of thousands of pieces of data every single day. And if we did not have the good kind of biases, every day we'd pick up our toothbrush and go, what am I supposed to do with this? Right? We have things that we have neural pathways that have been created in our minds to help us do shortcuts. And those are often good and very often bad when it comes to looking at other people. So just for a quick exercise, everybody cross your arms like you would if you were cold. Just cross your arms, everybody in the audience, everybody here online. And now I want you to just notice it's pretty comfortable, right? This is what you do when you're cold. Now shake your arms out and do them the other way. And you're like, I don't even know how to put my arms in the opposite direction, right? For us to change who we be, we have to be willing to get uncomfortable. And that discomfort of just doing that simple thing with your arms